Hi everybody, welcome to EUH 3281. I'm Dr. Shane Stufflet. I just want you to watch this video very quickly so that you can see who's behind the computer grading your assignments and who's commenting on some of your writings, and so that I can just quickly go over some of the main points from the syllabus that you should be aware of so that you know the ground rules. The scope of this class, to start, we will cover the origins of the Second World War for about the first third of the class. The second third of the class, roughly, we'll talk about the major events, the turning points of the war itself. And then the last, say, 2 to 3 modules are on the impact of the Second World War on the post-war world. So we'll talk about things like the development of existentialism a little bit, which maybe you haven't heard of, or how science contributed to the post-war European world and Western world. That's the scope of the class, and that's the general setup of everything. Every module, as you will find out, is pretty much set up the same. Always start with the goals and the instructions for each module. That's at the very top of each module. And if you just follow the goals and instructions, then and complete the assignments that I have numbered for each goals and instruction sheet, then you will have completed everything you need to do for that particular module, and you will be prepared for the quiz, which is the last thing you should be doing for each module. It is very important within those modules that you review the PowerPoints. I've posted video overviews of each PowerPoint for you to hear a condensed version of what you would have heard if you had taken this class in person. So each of those PowerPoints, you simply download them. They'll download in PowerPoint, and then if you just kind of scroll down at the bottom and you hit the play button, then you should hear me starting to talk and reviewing those PowerPoints for you. It really is important that you listen to them. There are times where I will say things within the PowerPoint, or I'll point things out that are going to be on the quiz that if you don't listen to the PowerPoint, you're not going to hear. It is also very important that you watch the video clips and you complete the assignments. Any video clips that I have posted are fair game for the quizzes, and I always put at least one question, or sometimes 2 questions if it's a longer video clip. I put questions from the video clips on the quizzes, and there are questions from the assignments on the quizzes as well. So it's important that you follow each of the steps, and you try not to take any shortcuts, because I try to be efficient with your time, with my time. I don't ask you to do anything that I'm not going to ask you a question on, generally speaking. Okay. The quizzes are timed at 15 minutes, and you have 1 minute per question roughly, so it's 15 questions in 15 minutes. And they are set up so that you get 1 question at a time, and once you answer those questions, you cannot go back. That is meant to make sure that you've prepared for the quizzes, to be honest with you. The time limit is so that you just can't have an open-ended quiz and go back and look through the PowerPoints or use your book to find all the answers in the readings with an open-ended amount of time. You certainly can do those things while you're within the quiz in those 15 minutes. So I certainly expect you have the PowerPoint open and that you may have your book in front of you. That's certainly fine. One thing I want to emphasize, though, is that it is important that you do not share answers with anybody in the class. That is considered to be obviously academic dishonesty, and if I get wind of the fact that people are sharing answers or sharing questions and helping other people along, then you will be referred to UCF's authorities to deal with that particular matter. Also keep in mind, and this is important as well, your quizzes and your tests are ultimately curved. And so read very carefully the instructions to the quiz for module number 1. You will see me explaining this to you, but in a nutshell, I'd like for my average to be about an 80 for the quizzes, an 80 for the tests, and therefore the average person in this class should walk away with a grade somewhere around an 80, an 81, maybe an 82, as long as they do all the assignments. So what that means is if you take a quiz or a test and the class average is a 75, then I'm going to curve that quiz or test 5 points for everybody. That then lifts the class average to an 80, which is where I want it to be. If you get 100 on that particular quiz, that has a 5-point curve, then you will get 5 points added and you will get 105 for that particular quiz. But what that means is that for every quiz or test, the average will be somewhere around an 80. So after you take your first quiz, and if you don't do as well as you want to do, wait for the quiz to be, the curve to be set. I will typically announce the curve under announcements no later than Wednesday, typically. And oftentimes I do it on the Monday following that quiz. And then see where you are after that so you can kind of gauge yourself. But generally speaking, if your average for this class, as you're taking these quizzes, is around an 80, then you are performing average compared to the rest of the students in the class. If your average is above an 80, then you're obviously above average. If your average is below an 80, then you're below average. Okay. But again, I want to emphasize the importance of doing those assignments, because assignments make up 10% of your grade. And it's important that you have them all in and that you get good scores on them, because that'll give you some padding in your grade. I do read the assignments. So it is incredibly important that you take your time writing your answers to these assignments. Because of the Gordon rule, your writings should be in complete sentences, should be capitalized. You should be paying attention to grammar and diction and so forth. So if you don't do well on the assignments, that could be the reason you're not doing well on the assignments, and I will put that in your comment box, in addition to wrong answers, of course. But these assignments are meant to prepare you for the quizzes and so that you'll know some of the answers on the quizzes. So make sure you do them well, and you take your time and you write well in the assignments so that I can justify to the department and to the college that you are writing at a college level. Because again, this is a Gordon Rule class. Okay. All right. So we have the scope of the class. We have what you can expect every week, and then the grading is kind of what I just got into. 50% of your grade will be those quiz averages. One of those quizzes will be dropped. That is factored into the grade book. So by the time you take your second quiz, you will see that your lower of the two quizzes by then will be dropped. And your average that you see will always factor in that one drop quiz that you get. Ultimately, that means that you could skip a quiz if you want and not do one week. I wouldn't recommend that. I would try to make sure you get all the quizzes in so that whatever your lowest quiz score is can be dropped and you can keep your average as high as possible. Okay. So if you have any questions for me throughout the course of the semester, obviously you email me. I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And I hope you enjoy the class, and I hope you learn a lot about the causes, the course, and then the effects of the Second World War on Europe.